This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
At least 23 mourners killed in a suspected Boko Haram attack. In Sudan, military officers to be charged for the deadly breakup of a sit-in in June. And Moroccans prepare to mark the 20th anniversary of King Mohammed VI's rule. Hello and a very warm welcome to Africa Live on CGTN. I'm Lindy Mtongana in Nairobi. Also coming up this half hour. A young entrepreneur provides a unique bicycle transport solution for locals in Nigeria. And we look into the elevation of SAFA President Danny Jordan to CAF third Deputy President. We start the program in Nigeria, where suspected Boko Haram jihadists have killed at least 23 mourners in a village in northeastern Borno State. A local militia leader says the attack happened on Saturday as mourners were returning from a funeral in the area. Here's CGTN's Deji Badmus with more.
The attack reportedly happened in the Ngazai district, which is in the outskirts of Maiduguri, the Borno State capital. Now, the local militia leader said the attackers on 3 motorbikes opened fire on the mourners as they made their way back home from a funeral ceremony in a nearby village. He added that his men recovered 23 bodies from the scene of the attack. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack, but every suspicion falls on Boko Haram. The insurgents have been very active in the area and have actually carried out a series of attacks in the area in the past. Now, other than the account of the local militia leader, there's been no official confirmation of the attack. It's been 10 years now since the Boko Haram insurgency began in Nigeria's northeast Borno State. It's since spread beyond Nigeria to Chad, Niger, and Cameroon, all countries bordering the Lake Chad Basin area. The insurgency has also resulted in an estimated 27,000 deaths and the displacement of millions of people from their homes and communities, triggering one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. Deji Badmos, CGTN, Lagos, Nigeria.
Let's head to Somalia now, where a move to suspend ties by a regional administration is threatening to create political instability in a region already marred by years of conflict. On Thursday, authorities in southern Somalia cut ties with the federal government ahead of a crucial election next month. From Mogadishu, CGTN's Abdulaziz Bello has more.
In the port city of Kismayo, campaign is in top gear ahead of regional elections next month. The incumbent leader, who has served as president since 2013, is among candidates seeking the top job. This is the third time the region will be holding crucial elections. But on Thursday, the regional authority announced it was cutting ties with the federal government, accusing it of creating political disunity and interfering in the upcoming polls. Experts warned that the lack of cooperation between both sides will create political instability. Mogadishu insists that the polls must take place in a neutral venue to ensure credibility.
If Jubaland State does not cooperate with the federal government of Somalia on this election, the credibility of the result will be in question for a long time, not only at this time, but also for a long time, because a lot of people will not really be satisfied with the outcome of the elections in Jubaland State, because they believe that it was not conducted in a transparent way and the due process has not been followed.
Regional administrations have in the past suspended working relations with the central government, accusing it of lacking commitment in battling insurgent groups and failing to respect the country's federal structure.
The people of Somalia have been in a long civil war. They want a government that is able to deliver on its promises. They want to have access to basic human rights. They want to have security in all their areas of residence. They want the fight against Al-Shabaab to continue.
The United Nations top diplomat in a visit to Kismayo has also called for free and fair elections.
I underscored the strong views of the international partners that this process must take place without violence, on time, and without interference, and that it follow a fair and transparent process broadly acceptable to all. Such a process would enhance prospects for peace, stability, and economic development in Jubaland and in the region.
Earlier this month, Al-Shabaab launched a deadly attack on a hotel in Kismayo, killing 26 people, among them a candidate in the upcoming polls. The first major attack in the port city since the Al-Qaeda-linked group lost its control 7 years ago. Clan elders are already in the process of selecting lawmakers for the upcoming regional assembly that will in turn elect the region's new leader. It's unclear whether the suspension of ties will have any impact on the election timetable. Experts, however, say that the winner of August elections' crucial task will be to amend frosty relations that has been existing for years between Mogadishu and Kismayo. Abdul Aziz Bilo, CGTN, Mogadishu, Somalia.
Sudanese and South Sudanese officials have agreed with the leaders of an alliance of armed factions that operate along the border between the two countries to extend a ceasefire and allow humanitarian access. One of the leaders of the armed groups from Sudan, Malik Agar, has been granted refuge by South Sudan. Saturday's talks were attended by South Sudanese President Salva Kiir, together with senior security and administration officials from both countries. The neighbors have been supporting armed militias as part of a wider proxy war being fought over resources. Chinese troops have been deployed to guard a UN camp in Gao, Mali, after a terror attack was carried out at a nearby French military base on Monday. The attack left a Malian soldier dead and several others injured, including French peacekeepers. Chinese peacekeepers in the West African nation have been on high alert as insurgents scale up attacks on government installations and foreign military bases.
Since we were given the assignment, we have fully studied the situation, extensively obtained the relevant intelligence, solidly conducted emergency rehearsal, and comprehensively upgraded protective facilities so as to improve the emergency responsibilities of our troops.
Well, here in Kenya, the arrest of the Treasury Minister and a host of his juniors has once again shifted debate to the corruption investigation in the country. Leading these investigations are two men with contrasting backgrounds. One, a son of a senior political leader in Kenya, while the other, the offspring of urban poor parents who grew up in one of these slums in Nairobi. However, their unity in the fight against corruption has put them on the local and international map. Here's CGTN's Uche Okoronkwo with the tale of Kenya's Director of Public Prosecutions and the head of the country's investigating agency.
Growing up as a son of a senior administrator in Kenya, Nuruddin Haji had all the best that life could offer. His father is currently a senator. On the other end of life was George Kinoti. His life a total contrast from Haji's. He grew up in one of the slums in the Kenyan capital of Nairobi, where life was tough.
Me, I've come from the lowest of the society. That's why I was picked as a child, brought up by a mission. I have no idea where my money for my education came from, up to and including to the university. So when I look back and they say, let's say, our country is in plenty, and all the resources of this country are consolidated for the good of Kenyans. If I did not have somebody who sympathized to pick me and under sponsor, all the way in Europe, in Italy, actually, you have to be specific, to take care of me. But when knowing we have this country, everything, free education, free health, and all that, but I see the amount of money, you can see the amount of money we have, which actually is not little money. It can run this country, absolutely. It's going to individual people's pocket. Then you come and put me in the same bandwagon to deprive these people again. Where I've come from, who are they crying to?
Haji would join the Kenyan intelligence and later be appointed as Director of Public Prosecutions, a post he currently holds. George, on his part, would rise through police ranks and head the country's criminal investigations agency. But the war on corruption has made these two gentlemen's paths cross.
We do have a personal relationship as friends. That goes a long way to build that relationship. And I think the president also has picked individuals who he believes can work together. If you look at the Inspector General, he's a colleague of mine. The ESCC director was a former colleague. And we are able to sit down and agree without having tough wars amongst ourselves.
It is a unity of purpose driven by a duty to fight corruption and a dream to achieve the successful prosecution of people in high offices. In the wake of their collaboration, big names have fallen. Kenya's Minister of Finance and other senior officials at Treasury are the latest suspects to be dragged before court. But their initial crack struck at the country's National Youth Service, where over $100 million was alleged to have been lost through graft.
The test case was NYS, and quite a number of officers had to fall on the side because there was still those old frictions and silos, and we had to then build a team that would gel them together, and we've managed to do that.
That's the reason we say we are rejuvenated, we have been renewed, and more or less it's a renaissance as far as the DCI is concerned, because now the DPP is part and parcel of us.
Since then, these two men and their teams have instilled fear in the hearts of many.
He is the first DPP, I can say, who is a polished field officer. And investigations, he knows very well because it was by capacity of his responsibility. He was an investigator, in as much as he was in the intelligence. He was an operational man. This guy has commanded good operations, which even we did together.
Whether these two will see the end of corruption in the East African nation, only time will tell. Uche Okoronkwo, CGTN.
Well, let's go up north now, where Moroccans are preparing for the 20th anniversary celebration of King Mohammed VI's rule. Morocco is largely seen as one of the few countries that has remained peaceful in the face of the instability that has hit the Middle East and North Africa in recent years. It also has a strong economy, with tourism, mining and manufacturing playing a leading role. However, unemployment amongst the young population has been on the rise, a matter that the king's advisors say they are aware of.
Today, I think we are in the beginning of the third period. We are proud of what has been achieved so far. However, we are not blind to our imperfections and to all that is expected of us, as well as the shortcomings and failures.
In Sudan, the head of the investigation committee has officially raised charges against some officers for their involvement in last June's deadly attack on protesters. Fatah al-Rahman Sahid says the officers violated their orders and pushed forces to engage with protesters. As CGTN's Adel Al-Mahri reports, Sahid has also dismissed accusations of the rape and torture of protesters during the breakup of that sit-in.
Some of Sudan's civilian political groups have rejected the findings of the National Investigation Committee. The committee has dismissed accusations of rape and torture during the June 3rd sit-in dispersal, which has outraged these groups. Some civilian powers are now calling for an independent regional investigation committee and are threatening to escalate.
It's unjustifiable stance from the opposition to call for a regional investigative committee is unnecessary as long as the national one is working properly. This escalation could affect the transition, and in Sudan another violent incident could turn into a civil war.
The June deadly protest dispersal saw some 87 killed according to official records. Protesters claim there are more. It has been a turning point in Sudanese politics, shaking the trust between civilian groups and the Military Transitional Council. Analysts, however, say trust between the two can be rebuilt.
To bridge this trust gap, all those involved in dispersing the sit-in must face serious trials. They have violated a military command to jeopardize civilian lives. All those injured must be compensated. Both parties must realize that violence in any revolution is inevitable. It's how they deal with it, it's what matters. They must work on reconciliation that will come when everyone involved is held accountable.
The National Investigation Committee says it has reached its initial conclusion after interrogating 59 witnesses. The committee is formed of prosecutors, police and military officers. No civilians are part of it. The protesters' tragic death will remain a painful incident in Sudan's recent memory. If the military officers involved are not held accountable and justice is not served as soon as possible, this incident could once again increase tension in Sudan and put the significant power-sharing agreement reached this month under jeopardy. Adel Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
You're watching Africa Live. We'll bring you more news from around the continent after this short break. Africa Live. Find your voice. We go to Nigeria now, where a young entrepreneur is revolutionizing the way locals move around from one point to another. The use of bicycles, called Our Bikes, is proving to be convenient to those in learning institutions and gated estates. Here's more on that.
Olatunde Nafiu is a student at the Lagos State University. He is hoping to make it to class on time, considering the vast grounds he has to cover to get to the lecture hall. All he needs is his smartphone, the Our Bike app, and he can be on his way.
From the Faculty of Art down to the other gate has always been a challenge for me. So seeing them online on board has been a very great initiative, and I've always used it. At least I don't queue for shuttles again. Maybe I get into this, all I just do is to unlock the bike. I have the app, unlock the bike, then just ride down to my faculty in no time.
Hour means hour in Pidgin English. This refers to something that belongs to more than one person. The Smart Bike Hiring Company was established in 2018 and aims to solve transport challenges. It targets gated communities, estates, and institutions in Lagos.
Hi, my name is Ifeoluwa Ogundipe, and I'm the founder of Our Bike, a mobility company that hopes to revolutionize mobility in Nigeria and Africa. Using Our Bike is so easy. All you have to do is download the app from either your Google Play Store or your Apple iOS store. Once you've downloaded the app and you've signed up and registered, all you have to do is tap Find a Bike. When you find a bike...
Ifeoluwa Ogundipe is one of the brains behind Our Bike. Upon his return from further studies, Ogundipe and his co-founders pooled a sum of $20,000 as seed capital and raised $107,000 in funding from various angel investors.
I moved to France for my studies, and the whole time I was there, I found myself using a bicycle. And it really just hit me like, why can we not, or why do we not use bicycles? You know, it's a really practical way, especially in a city like Lagos, to move around. That was where the seed of that thought was planted.
A 10-minute ride costs 6 US cents. The app offers navigation, and the bikes must be left at specific docking bays or a penalty will be charged to the user. With an estimated 5,500 users, the firm has recorded over 30,000 rides. Our Bike offers an even healthier alternative form of transport through monitoring over users' biometrics.
Options in terms of mobility are limited to just either buses or shuttles. And truth be told, they're not enough. You know, so it's been really good for us, and it's been really good for the students and also people that live in these communities, because what we've been able to do is to give them another way to move around. We've been able to give them another way to exercise. We've been able to give them another way to stay fit, another way to have fun.
AWA hopes to have 5,000 bikes by the end of 2019, with an expansion plan of covering 13 universities across Nigeria. Alexandria Majala for CGTN.
And here's what's coming up in your sports news up next. Coming up, we look into the elevation of SAFA President Danny Jordan to CAF third Deputy President.
Nigeria is my home. 160 million vibrant, ambitious individuals constantly seeking the perfect self-expression. It is these people who inspired me to be that person that is seen, to be a voice that is heard, and ultimately to be the anchor that I am. I have to tap in, tune in, and turn on the very best qualities within me to deliver the news. I'm Richard Nta, an anchor for CGTN.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
In your sports news, the cleanup of dissidents and critics of CAF President Ahmad from key African football positions appears complete. South African Football Association head Danny Jordan, a close ally of Ahmed, has landed a plum post as CAF's third deputy president after Nigeria's Amaju Pinnick, former CAF first vice president, was fired for opposing Ahmed's leadership. Here's CGTN's CS Duplessis with the details.
Daniel Alexander Jordan has been a football administrator for well over 3 decades. He is one of a select few to have successfully delivered a World Cup. Now the 67-year-old has taken up one of the most senior positions at CAF, adding to a CV that already reads extensively.
Having seen Danny over the years as well, I think maybe he felt also it's about time. I mean, he's a long-standing CAF executive member, long-standing, former CEO, SAFA president, you name it. He's done it all, and even within the SAFA region itself. So it's no surprise that he's finally got that position that I think he's been wanting for a long time.
Jordan's relationship with the CAF president has come a long way, as it was the former mayor of Port Elizabeth that spearheaded Ahmed's bid for the presidency of African football.
It looks like it's a great relationship, and hence maybe they are repaying him for all that he did previously. It's just like politics. Obviously, the person who then takes over then starts rewarding the people that have been backing him. And because at first he was heading the marketing and commercials committee, and all of a sudden is now the third vice president within CAF. So it's true. Everybody rewards people that look after them.
The SAFA president has had his fair share of controversy in his tenure as a football administrator. And despite calls for him to step down from several former players, he is adamant that he remains the best candidate to change football in Africa.
You know the saying, innocent until proven guilty. And he's not lost any of his posts, whether SAFA president, CAF executive member, or even FIFA advisor in some level in one way or the other. So I think those who are around him, who trust him in those capacities, feel there's nothing to it, and as long as there's nothing to it and there's no concrete evidence, the man will continue in his many hats that he wears.
There's no doubt that the SAFA president knows the ins and outs of African football better than most. He knows how to play the political game and harbours intentions to ascend to the helm of CAF one day. If he has the support to do that, well, that remains to be seen. And for now, he remains a loyal servant to the president, Ahmed, and hopes to climb further from that position after being instated as the third deputy president of the Confederation of African Football. CS Duplessis, CGTN, Johannesburg.
To Formula One now, where Red Bull's Max Verstappen won a